Hey guys, and welcome back to part 4 of the build your own board videos. I've got quite a lot of good feedback from the videos and I'm enjoying doing it, to be fair. It's a bit difficult because I've never really filmed anything like this before, but I'm learning a lot, so I do have plans to do more similar videos and hopefully sort of fine-tune a few little things here and there. With the board itself, I've actually got a little bit ahead of myself because it worked out easier to do this. And what I'd done the resin pour for the water effects last night, so it was slightly dry and I could get a second layer on today because I'm going to do 2 layers to get the nice clear sheen on the water. So up to the stage that you'd seen that I'd used a heat gun to burn out a roughly 6-inch arc in the corner of the board. That made it drop down lower than the actual gaming surface. So that enabled me then, I can use my airbrush to paint the colours that I want the water to vaguely look, and I use an airbrush because you can blend the colours a lot easier and it just looks a lot nicer with the water effects. And then I can pour a clear resin and it's got something to drop into rather than being the same level as your plain area, and it will just go everywhere. Now this is one of my first times using this resin on board. I've used it on smaller terrain pieces to good effect, and it's worked quite well. With this resin, I followed the manufacturer's recommendations for the mixing of it, but I've added some brown ink because I want the water to have a slight dirty tinge to it. Not too dirty, just a touch of brown ink, and it just sort of takes. I don't want it to be perfectly clear, if you know what I mean. I want it to look a little bit murky, look like the river in the movie. So I added a little bit of brown ink, mixed it up before the initial pour, and it's looking okay. I'm happy with it. So a few people have asked what resin I used, and I've tried lots and lots of different stuff. And some of you may follow Luke's APS YouTube channel. I've mentioned it a couple of times. I'll mention it again because we sort of do better things backwards and forwards, myself and Luke. He's helped me out on quite a few things when I've not used them before, and he has, and he's done all the trial and error, and we speak to each other and he'll let me know the best way of doing things. And he suggested this clear cast resin as the cheapest option because you get it. How can I put it? It's not cheap, but for what you pay you get a lot, rather than buying the small little bottles of water effects and things like that. I think this tin was roughly £30, and this is it here, and it's the CFS clear cast resin. And if you go on the CFS website, basically it's for encapsulations, jewellery use, water clear castings. So it's for making things like paperweights, but if you wanted something inside the paperweight, or for science lab use for encapsulating dead insects and things like that. But it's perfect for what we want. The only thing you've got to be careful of is what you pour it onto. I made mistakes in the past of painting the river, pond, lake, whatever it is that I'm using the water effects on, and pouring straight onto the paint, and depending on what paint you use, it will sort of seep, the colours will seep into the resin, and it just doesn't look good. Doesn't look great at all. So you need to seal before you pour. It is something that is so small and easy to forget, but it's such an important part of the process. So you need to seal it with PVA or some kind of sealer before you pour the resin in. But yeah, it's looking good. And what I'll do in a moment, I'll get behind the camera and I'll show you on the board itself some close-ups of how it looks. Alongside that, because it's like a little beach area on the lake stroke river from the movie, I want it to look as if the water's not waves but sort of splashing up onto the beachy area. So what I use for that, the resin is, once you pour it, it settles itself. It's like a self-leveler, and there's not much you can do with it then. There are things you can do, like you can create ripples and stuff, but you've got to catch it just as it's setting, and it can be quite difficult, so I don't really mess around with things like that. But there is a product from Vallejo, and it's I'm sure other manufacturers make similar things, but I've used this one to good effect, and it's called Water Texture, and it basically says it's transparent water, but it's like a gel. So if you open it, let's have a look. You can see that it's like a white gel, and it's kind of the sort of consistency of, how would you say, a blancmange or thick custard. And what you can do with that, you can get this, so where the waves are going to be lapping up onto the beach, just sort of a semicircular area, just where the resin ends. I'm going to sort of stipple this on, and it will stay stippled because it's nice and thick. You can get a stippled effect, but that dries clear, so it will dry clear like the resin. And then I'm just going to very, very lightly dry brush that with white, very, very lightly, just to create that sort of foaming effect, and it works quite well. So that's where I'm at the moment. Again, I'll show you that in a second. A lot of other things have gone on, i.e. I've painted the ruin. That was really simple, base coat grey, a couple of dry brush highlights. I think there was 2 or 3 lighter shades, and then a black wash, and all that's left to do with that now is a very, very light dry brush of almost pure white, like a really, really off-white grey. And when I say light, I mean light. It's going to be next to nothing. It's going to be hardly noticeable, but it leaves a nice effect on the edges. I put a few trees on. I took a couple of pictures last night with miniatures on the board, just to have a look, see how it looks really. So what I'll do now, get behind the camera, I'll show you the board, and we'll talk about where we're going to go next with the board. So here we are, guys. As you can see, that's the water effects, and you can just see the Vallejo water gel around the edge there, which once that dries clear. And then the gap in between the waves and the resin, I'll use some more of the Vallejo water effects just to join the two up, make the waves a little bit more prominent, and I'm hoping that'll look really, really well. The clear resin is looking very, very nice. I'm really happy with how that's turning out. I'm not sure if you can see on camera, there's a lot of reflection from the light, the browns that are in there, and sort of the browns, because it's transparent and it's over the blue paint underneath, there's a lot, it's like turning green. It's getting a nice effect actually. It's quite nice. It was unintentional, but it looks really, really good. So that's the water effects, and then the different things like the ruins, the little features from the movie, they've all been painted and dry brushed now and things like that, and it's just things that finish it off. These are from the Ruins of Middle Earth set, things like that. I've had them sat around for God knows how many years, and they've finally come to some use. And that's the ruin itself that I made, just to emulate some of the ruins that were in that part of the movie. Am Hen, a nice little step. I was gonna put more sort of broken walls and things in behind it, so it doesn't kind of look like it's just plonked there in the middle of nowhere. But time is against me, and maybe at some point I will do, or maybe make them modular so I can put them on and take them off and use them on other boards. And yeah, I hope it's coming out on camera, the effect for the grass. I'm really happy with the grass, really, really happy. As you can see there, I've set the fellowship up. I took a few shots of that just because I thought it looked cool, and you can see there Sam telling Mr. Frodo that the king has got his crown back. It's just little things like that. It's fun to do, and it really, really sets off the board, I think. So the next phase with this is going to be the final dry brushes, maybe another wash, because this part of the wall here looks very, very light compared to if the part on the left, sorry, looks very light compared to the rest. So I may give that another wash. There's a very good chance I probably missed that when I was washing the rest of it for some reason or another. But we'll get that done. We may get another wash on. So when I come to do the dry brushing, which will be almost the final stages, we'll come back and then we'll get the board set up with all the trees on it, not just these couple that I'd put on it. And yeah, we can have a chat about the board and sort of look at it from start to finish. how we got to this stage, and I'm hoping you have enjoyed following me on this journey with this board. It's been a lot of fun to do. It took a little bit more time with filming, but I've enjoyed it. But yeah, so we'll come back in a second when we're doing the dry brushing and finishing things off. Hey guys, just a few little tips which I meant to do earlier on in the video and totally forgot. If you do decide to do your own boards, you know, you can go to hobby stores, Hobbycraft, etc. to get all your stuff like your PVA and your Scatterflock stuff from model shops, etc. That's fine, and you know, I do highly recommend. I use a lot of the named stuff because it is really good quality. But one thing I would suggest is when you're buying your PVA, you've probably seen me earlier in the video using a small bottle which come from Hobbycraft. That was from a kid's craft cupboard. We buy that from there. That's for them to use. It's an easy squeezable bottle, they can use it. I buy it like this. This is exactly the same stuff but of much higher strength. The stuff you get from hobby stores is basically a slightly watered down version of this. This is, you can get it from DIY shops, builders yards, B&Q, home base, things like that. And that is a 5 litre tub, and that was £8 for 5 litres. And if I put that in as an example, a 10 litre tub and added 5 litres of water, that, to give you an idea, that would probably be the same strength then as the Hobbycraft stuff. So £8 for all that, and it goes a long way. That will last me now months and months and months, and that's if I'm building terrain constantly. If I have a break from it like I did last year, I finished off early this year one of these that I bought last year and used right the way through last year. So that just goes to show how much PVA you can use building boards and how much money you can save. I think the small bottles from Hobbycraft are about £2. So I mean, that tells you everything you need to know. Another thing, I told you about the leaves, the little seed leaf things that I use for scatter, which is on the board, which looks really cool, because they do look like sort of oak leaves, which is awesome. You can also use, I mentioned bracken. I do have an old coffee grinder that I sometimes will put old dried twigs in and grind it up and get like a coarse, basically it's twigs but it's coarse and it's dark brown, light brown, it's got lots of nice natural colours in it, and I use that, but I can't find my tin with it in, and I need to get this board finished, one for the video and two because I need to move on. So another little tip is dried herbs from the supermarket. This is basil, oregano. The only reason I use basil and oregano is nothing to do with what they are. It's the shades. They're nice. That's more of a yellowy shade, and that's like a darker brown. And that on top of your flocked grass, with your leaf scatter, and you know your bits of thicker flock, etc., looks awesome. And all you do, get your trusty sprayer, watered down PVA, spray the area that you want. And luckily they're handy, they come in with a sprinkle section of the cap, like so, like a pepper pot, or a pour version, there you go, which is basically open so you can just pour it out. If you're going to use the pour side, be very careful because it will just fly out. I use the scatter part, or sometimes I'll put it in my hand and use my fingers if I want, you know, want it in certain places. But all you do is you spray the area with the watered down PVA and sprinkle this on as you would flock. And it's really good. Once that's set, spray it with the PVA again to seal it. One, because eventually it'll, you know, you keep moving minis over it, the dried herbs will just crumble and turn to dust and they'll disappear eventually. And spraying another layer of PVA and it will just keep them, it'll seal it in and keep them nice. And secondly, you might like the smell. You seal them, it stops the smells coming through. Not totally, but you know, you might get the odd whiff if you're down close to the board, checking for line of sight or something. But that's just a little tip. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the video, coming towards the end of the videos in a second. I'm just going to show you the final detailing, place some trees on the board, and yeah, you can have a look at the board. I'll get in with the camera. I'll go back over parts that I've done, like, you know, using the dried herbs. I'll show you where I've done it, what it looks like, And yeah, so I'll come back to you in a second, guys. Hey guys, and I've finished it. I've finished the board. The alternate ham and hen, as I've started to call it, is finished, finito. Couldn't help but set some minis up there because it looks awesome. I've roughly got the layout of where my trees are going to go. I won't fix them in place. What I'm going to do is they will be magnetised at some point, but I need to work out how many trees I've got and sort of split them between all the boards, because I've got other boards that need trees as well. I've only got so many trees. I'm going to pick some up off Mr. James Clark from Hot Gates Gaming. He's going to borrow me some trees, because the amount of boards that I'm making at the moment, I need tons and tons of trees, and I don't want to waste my time making more trees when James has got loads there from Ardacon last year, just sat around doing nothing. So he's kindly offered to let me borrow them, which is cool. What I'll do is I'll get behind the camera and we'll get some close-up shots of the board and you can have a proper look at it. But I'm very happy with how it's turned out. It is a gaming board, it's not a diorama. One of these days I am going to do a display board stroke diorama. I just don't have the time to do it, to be honest. I've always got 2 or 3 things on the go at once, and I just don't have time to do it. I will at some point. I'll get around to it and put a lot more time and effort into the pieces that I make. But I'm more than happy with the way they've turned out, and this board especially. Some of the PVA is still wet because I've just give it the final coating over the bracken and the sort of underbrush and things like that. But we'll get in there and we'll have a look, and yeah, I'll show you what it looks like. So here we go, guys. Here's the board. Filming this and building it at the same time has been a strange experience. I kept finding myself just doing things and forgetting to film them or go over them. So I'm going to do a few more of these videos because some of you guys have asked, and hopefully I'll hone my technique. Maybe if I was just doing the one board rather than several, it'd be a lot easier. But yeah, anyway, I hope you've liked the videos, and I hope you like the way this has turned out. I hope you can pick up a few tips and tricks. As you can see, it is an ham and hen theme board. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to stick to the forces from the movie, because during tournament play there's going to be all sorts of different forces battling on here. So I've popped Thranduil out and got him just coming through that doorway there, as you can see, and got some Gundabad's taking off that scene from Battle of 5 Armies. He's just about to take those out with his stag. But yeah, the ruin itself, as you can see to the left hand side, it's still a bit white where the glue's wet, but I've added like a climbing vine going up the rock and up the wall, which I think that looks quite cool. I'm really happy with how it's turned out. Again, you've got here, that is oregano, I think that is, or basil, one of the two, and we've got another bunch of it there. Once that white part's dry and it's just the brown over the green grass, that's going to look cool. And I've actually, it's scattered all over the board, so we get a few more spots just here. You see, that's all dried herbs. And I've literally just sealed the board, so there's some over there. It's all mixed in with the scatter leaves. But yeah, overall I'm very happy with the board. I think this is a really cool board. Even though there's a lot on it, it's quite an open board, so it's going to be really cool to play on. You've got the hill in the corner, which is blended in nicely, and it just adds a nice feature to the corner of the board. And then over here, just a little bit of detail to remind us exactly where we are. Yeah, I really like that, the way that turned out. Very easy, very simple, but very effective. And then just a few rocky outcrops here and there, just to break up the terrain, give a bit of cover. As you can see, I've finished the beach. You could probably see there, because of the reflection of light, I've textured the surface of the water. I didn't want it perfectly flat, so I've textured it to have ripples. And then on the beach, obviously the waves not crashing up onto the shore, but you know, creating like a white foam effect. And then obviously where it would hit this piece of ruined scenery, you'd get the same. So just dry brush around the outside of that, and I'm really happy with how that's turned out. I'm not sure if the camera's picking up exactly how good that looks, but I'm very, very happy with that. And then, like I say, I used the ruins from the old Lord of the Rings box sets, and I think they tie in great and sort of really tie in. They bring the ruin into play. One thing that I would have liked to have done is just had more ruins, but the ruin was an afterthought, so I would have had more sort of broken off parts of building around this area, rather than it look like there's just a ruin sat in the middle of the Wilderland. I cut a piece of ruin rather than a whole building. But I kind of got to thinking, well, if that was from a different age and that was all that was left standing, you know, that all the other bits of rubble and stuff would have been overgrown and would be under that grass somewhere. But yeah, so that's the board. There's the little hill in the corner there, again, just to add that little bit of, you know, a flat board, it's not very exciting. If you've got archers or crossbowmen, you pop them in that corner there, they've got good line of sight. There's still a lot of cover, so you know, they've not got the perfect position, but they've got the height. But yeah, very, very happy with it. Really happy with it. Let me know what you guys think of it, if you're going to attempt something like it. What your favourite part of it is, what you're going to attempt to do from what you've seen on the videos. There's so many techniques in making these boards. You know, I couldn't do it all in one video on one board, so I will do more videos for you. And yeah, I'll show you some more techniques. I've got a few ideas, boards that I need to get built for the tournament, so if I get the time I'll film them. You know, there's sort of an urban board with more buildings. It's more building and street orientated. There's a lake town board to go. There's sort of a cavernous board. Loads to do. It's just, if I can get the time to film it, because it does take a lot longer filming it. I've got to really, rather my spare time, I come into the man cave and, you know, just crack on. But when you're filming things, when I was filming the bits for this, I had to sort of pre-thinking. A lot of thought was going into it of what I need to film, what I don't need to film, what I can do off camera, and then just show you, etc. And I think that there is stuff that I would change. There is stuff that I would show you in more detail. But I hope I've covered pretty much everything. But yeah, that's the board. So I'm looking forward to seeing this out on the table on at the Scouring of Cheshire. There's a couple of tickets come available from, unfortunately there's a few people who bought tickets who are now unable to make it due to other commitments. So if it's something that you think you'd like to take part in and play on boards like this in Altrincham, Cheshire, mid-July, then yeah, get in touch. You're more than welcome. I've not advertised the tickets as of yet. Whether I'll have advertised before this video goes out is a different matter altogether, but we'll see. But yeah, if you're interested, let me know, and by all means come down just to have a look, really, and socialise. It's always a good weekend. But yeah, that's it. So I hope you like the board. Like I say, I'm really happy that it turned out. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if through watching these videos you're going to have a go, and I'd love to see what you get done. So keep on gaming, guys, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Take care.